What's up, guys? Welcome to a early installment of Kicking with Danny, but there's a reason for that. I want to try to do something new on Sundays that taps into storytelling and creative writing, another passion of mine. So on Sundays, I would like to tell stories and actually get you all involved by doing it via writing prompts. So the idea is at the end of this video and Sundays going forward, I will put a writing prompt up, and if you want to get involved and you want to submit and be a part of the video the next week, you just submit the writing prompt. You can leave it in the comments, you can send it as an email. I have it on that, the banner of mine, or you can DM me on IG. The Instagram's on there as well. But you get involved, the more you get involved, the better it is. Each week I'd read 2 to 3 different stories, including mine, and that will allow us to get like some ease off the Sunday before we start back in the week. A few stories to just get us back into the week, get us back and ready to go. But so if you would like to be involved and you would like to, even if you don't want to and you want to just have your kids do a project, have them read, you can share the prompt, and it'll just be a fun time on Sunday, getting in here, get a casual read going with a similar setup as this. So for this week, I don't have a prompt yet. Well, I have a prompt at the end. We didn't start with a prompt, so I wanted to tell a story about how I got into writing, what influenced me, and things like that. I kind of have the whole story down pat. And it's not that long. I'll make it a short story. So first, we'll just start at elementary school. Me and my best friend Migoy, his name was Tommy Pham. We were heavily influenced by like Sunday cartoons from the Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Digimon, Dragon Ball Z. So like every day in class during elementary school, we would pass around a paper where we would start pretty much fan fiction. So that's how we started. We started with fan fiction, a fan fiction story of us two in like Yu-Gi-Oh world where we're dueling with Pegasus or something like that for Star Chips, or in Pokemon trying to go to be a Pokemon master and a gym leader, even like in Digimon, because we both had different favorites. My favorite was Garurumon, and he was Agumon. Of course, he was always the edgelord one, and I was always the guy who liked the second Pokemon. I didn't like Charizard. I liked Squirtle. I was that guy. But we both did agree on Vegeta being the cool character in Dragon Ball Z. So we wrote ourselves into stories in those worlds, and we did that. I remember doing it all fifth grade year. We read the AR books, and I read it, passing mine, he passed me his. We had like the two most read books in the class, and then we would write. And then from there, going into middle school, I don't think we wrote as much together, but that's when I started. My second wave of influence came from foreign films when the Blockbuster was around. Me and my brother used to go to Blockbuster like every week. Not every week, I won't say every week, but every time we went to Blockbuster, I would go to the foreign section, and we would browse for like a cool looking martial arts movie or something like that. And we found quite a few random ones that we took home and watched. And that influenced me because I personally felt like the foreign films did a much better job at the storytelling aspect of like a movie. You're on like a journey with them. It was kind of like watching anime and action. You was on a journey with the characters. They did a cool way of incorporating action with some romance, with just adventure, accomplishment. You see them struggle, you see them overcome, like swordsman, and it had like battles, which was cool for like young boys like us. That's what we thought was cool. So I really thought that was dope to watch. It was really cool, and it influenced me because I was like, I would like to create something that included, all of those aspects. I wasn't like, I wouldn't say a hopeless romantic, but I did like to incorporate that in some of like my early writing and stuff. So after that, after middle school passed, I also played ball, so it wasn't too like, I wasn't writing and doing as much as I was before. I was mostly watching movies and playing sports. But then high school came, we were still playing sports, but we was able, me and my friend Miguel were back to writing it up. We this time when we write, well, also during this time, I got introduced to Korean dramas, and that added the romantic comedy aspect. Korean dramas did great jobs with romantic comedies. We started watching. I think I started with My Sassy Girl because the main character looked like a friend of ours, and we always made fun of him, so I had to watch it. So I started with My Sassy Girl, 200 Pound Beauty, and Two Faces of My Girlfriend, and then that led me to like See You After School and Legend of the Seven Splitter, Seven Cutter, and like those were kind of like I was saying before with the action films, how it incorporated the romance with the funny and the action. So that was like my genre, what I wanted to create. So in high school, me and my friend Migoy, we started writing through AIM as an outlet. So we would go into like an AIM chat room, and we would let's come up with an idea and start writing it from like kind of like in a role playing aspect. So it'd be like I'd be a character, he'd be a character, and we kind of just bounced off like as characters in these scenes and developed that world and characters and support characters and our characters' background and history all through just RPing from scratch. So that was a pretty cool thing to do at the time. Like we would start a new one almost every day. We would start one, and then we would go through the whole process. We'd go through the whole day. We'd do it through the whole, well, not the whole day, the whole night or whatever, until we like it's bedtime. And then we'd be like at the end, we're like, yeah, ain't like that one. So we did that a lot and threw away a lot of stories that we started. So after a while, we finally came to one that we started and was like, this one is actually really fun. This one is actually really good. And that's the one we call RL for Rio and Lee. You know, our influence was. So Rio and Lee, I still have all the chapters of that saved on a hard drive somewhere. We actually had like a few pages drawn by our friend Teresa. I could show those if I can find them. But like, Rio and Lee was like, this is it. We're going to write this. And we wrote that one over time. It had all those elements I spoke of. It had like, of course, the action because it was like shonen type, but it had in the romance. It had in, some comedy. It had some of everything. So it was really fun. And we shared that with our friends at school, and they became like every week. It was like, so what happened this time? So we kind of became like an episode thing. We would keep them update. And then they say what we think happened next. We're like, we don't know because we were really like creating as we went. And it was fun. It was a fun thing to do. I still have all those documents because I, to this day, want to revisit RL and kind of make it something that's something readable. Because I ain't gonna lie, when our high school selves, when I read it back once, it was just like, what are we talking about? Are doing? It's so crazy. It's so ridiculous. Characters are redundant. It was so I did have it saved, and sometimes I revisit to touch up on it. So I look forward to one day, and maybe one day I'll retouch it and read it here on a Sunday. I don't know what to call this yet, but I read it here on like our writing time. So that was that element. So after we shared RL to our friends, they got into writing as well. They started, two of them would get together and write something. Then they started to write something. Then we came up with this idea called, I forgot what the book was called. The Book of Destinies. Yeah, the Books of Destiny. And it was about us, these 5 kids. Each of us had like a character that we created. And we like lived in this not desolate, I wouldn't say. It's kind of in the realm of like Avatar kind of, where it's like, there's tech, but it's not like super modern. It's kind of like old time, like Avatar realm. We were in a place similar to that, and we were like 5 different characters, and we all had our own book. So the way it was supposed to play out was like each book plays through the same timeline, but from each character's perception. There we go. Like I created a character named Dante, and there was powers in this realm. And like we were all taken in by this monk, and it was cool. I will go over that one day as well. I'll save that if you're interested in hearing that full story. I'll save that. I'll give you the gist of it now. were these 5 characters, all with different unique abilities, raised by this monk because of things that happened in the past. And then when we all came of age and something happened, we were all set off into like different parts of the world to deliver messages. And each like it was supposed to play out like things happen in each book, and we with something happened in that book, it affected this book. And if you wanted to see how the perspective, you'd read that and you read this, but then there was like one overall book that we were going to do at the end, but we never got there. It was a fun project, but being in high school, relying on like other high school guys to do their part, it didn't work. I think me and our friend Hakeem got the furthest in our story, but then everyone else was like, they were hyped at the beginning, but they didn't do it. So that was an attempted project that I thought was pretty cool, and I would like to revisit one day. And one day I can sit here and go through that whole premises with you guys and talk about that as a story time on a week that we may not have a prompt. I think that'd be pretty fun. I think you would enjoy it, and I would enjoy the reminiscing of it. And then what else? I think that was all the actual. Oh wait, then after high school, there we go. Post high school is when I got into script writing with my friend Fee. He started doing short films with a couple other our friends at school, and I started writing scripts. I wrote. I don't think we actually filmed them scripts, the ones I wrote, but I have quite a few short film ideas written. I haven't wrote one in a while, so maybe we go back and touch it up. But I wrote a few. Most of the ones I wrote were surprisingly romance. They were romance with a hint of comedy. I didn't want to write action because I didn't think we could pull it off filming wise. So I wrote mostly romance not novels. I wrote mostly romantic shorts to be filmed I wrote it to where we could just hit up one or two of our friends and film it in like a day or two. But we didn't get to a lot of them. I still have them, so that could be something else if you guys interested. All this stuff, one day I call it like backlog Sunday or reminiscent Sunday or something, where I would just go over something old we did and then drop the prompt for the following week. So those were fun. I still have them. I look forward to writing scripts again now that I matured, I think, as a writer, and as I been able to think out proper ways that people actually talk to each other and interact. I think I could do a lot better now. So I look forward to doing that. That's how my influences evolved over time. But like the core of my influence, like when it came to writing and like even playing games like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, has been like world building. And that came from like when I earlier when I used to watch like Wizard of Oz and Peter Pan and even Alice in Wonderland. They took you to like whole new worlds that played by different sets of rules than our own, and I always thought that was fascinating, and I wanted to see more. I always wanted to see what else was in those worlds, like outside of the yellow brick roads you follow. What else was out there? That's kind of why I thought the sequel to Oz was a letdown, the prequel. But I did enjoy Oz with Michael Jackson. But that's I always wondered what else was in these worlds. So I always wanted to create a world that would just people wanted to dive in and wanted to know more about it. You want to know more lore of like the places that the characters speak of, but you don't necessarily get to see, or the places they go to, how they like so different from ours. I always wanted to create a place, a world that people can escape that to and just get lost in. I think that's what Harry Potter did for a lot of people. That world of magic was just so different. It was so cool when we were younger, watching and reading Harry Potter. I think that's why I was so enthralled with Lord of the Rings, because you watch them and incorporate everything from like the Dungeons and Dragons aspect and this new world that he created, and you watch them traverse through this world and all these different challenges to deliver this ring to the fire pit and the struggles it was in that world. And I thought that was extremely cool. So I always wanted to create something like that. Like one of my mantras, or I guess not mantras, but one of the things I used to say is I wanted to create the greatest adventure that anybody ever read. And, you know, that just was my personal goal. So let's see if I can do that. So that was the first, I guess we'll call it Sunday Stories, and it's about pretty much got to know what influenced me as a creator in general to this point. And so without further ado, let's try to set up this prompt for next Sunday and see if we can get this thing rolling into a annual, not annual, that's, well, a weekly thing. Let's see if we can get this into a weekly thing. So our prompt will come from this book here, Complete the Story. Most of our prompts will come from here. I got it from Barnes and Nobles a while back for like, how much is this? It wasn't that much. I think I had caught it when it was like in a sales area, and I thought that would be something pretty cool to do. And that was before I even started doing like trying to do YouTube. So our prompt for the first week will be: at first, we thought the black liquor was oil, that we struck it rich, and that we'd be able to retire and live in leisure. We actually started writing down all the ways we'd spend the money. Our first choice was... Alright guys, if you want to get involved, like I said before, you can comment your whole story down below. Just write it up somewhere, copy, paste it as a comment. You can send it to me in an email. I'll put it in the spot below, but it's also in my little tag. Or you can DM me on Instagram. I don't know if that'd be easy or not. I think it'd be easiest with the first two options. But thank you for sticking around, listen to the video. I hope this gives you something fun to do on Sunday before we all head back to work and all that stuff on Monday for those who are able to. So until next Sunday, everyone be safe out there. We'll see you. She said